Welcome to Facebook Live, Breathwork Edition, Friday here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center, Guanacaste, Costa Rica. I'm your host, Christian Minson. And if you're joining into the recording, know that you can skip to about 4 minutes in or so because we're just going to get going. Welcoming people, saying hi. Hi, Debbie Garcia. Please tell me if you can hear me. Would you put a little note in? I had a little bit of question about the sound. And I want to know if you can hear me. Do you see my lips moving but don't hear? Or do you see my lips moving and you do hear? Please, somebody tell me. Today we have in the studio Meg Pearson, Chef Meg, who does, I wish I could somehow flip this around. I'll just flip it around.
Hello.
I don't know if you can hear her because Virginia Jacobs, yeah, she can hear me. You can hear me? You guys can hear me? Great. You can hear and see too. Excellent. So Meg's in the studio, part of the studio audience today, the extensive studio audience that we have here at Rythmia Studios. Anyway, everybody can hear me good and welcome. It's nice to see you all here. I've had a little break, a little sojourn. We were away a couple weeks ago, and of course I tried not to work when I'm actually on vacation. But last week there was a little mix-up, and so I didn't do my Facebook Live. But we're back now, badder than ever. And so welcome to all of you. Love this topic. Great. Jamie and all of you, and I do invite you as we get into it today to ask questions, to give your input. If you've got, if you see things a different way, if you have questions about what I'm saying, if you totally disagree with me, I'm happy to have the dialogue. That's what this is really here for you to get to understand, what we do here, some of the mindset that brings value to this place, and if and it really is, the experience here is really an interactive experience. So it's not about us telling you what to do, but it's really about you assimilating what we've got here and maybe considering things you hadn't considered before that are going to help your life. So welcome, David, Alyssa, Jamie, Zenlin. Hi, miss you. When are you coming back? Padmini, welcome. Linda Young Thomas, hey, great to see you on. JD from Flint, Michigan. Judy, you can hear now. Perfect. Gord Barrett is back on. Welcome, Gord. My #1 fan. Does Gord tune into yours there, Meg?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Well, all right. So just again, Zinni and Gord having a cross conversation. Don't you guys get frisky in my chat there, all right? Zinlin's coming in on Saturday. Excellent. Well, I'll give you a big hug then. Gary Newton, and say hi to your mama for me. Tika, May, Stephanie Ann. Good. We got a good crowd today, and much bigger than normal even. Maybe I should stay away more often. What do you think about that,
Meg? No, we need you.
Internal commentary. All right, well, we're going to get started. Welcome, everybody, to Facebook Live, Breathwork Edition, every Friday, mostly every Friday, 1 p.m. Costa Rican time. I am your host for today, Christian Minson, Director of the Breathwork program here at Rythmia Life Advancement Center, Certified Transformational Breath Facilitator and Senior Trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation. I'm a speaker, author, internet coach, and your catalyst for awakening and transformation here this week to deliver on the topic of loving the darkness. I was supposed to mention something too, I think, about we are doing LGBTQ week coming up in November, it is, and I got my my crew here working on I'm bringing up the relevant information. But all right, this I'm going to need my glasses for. This is a what do you call it? So we're going to announce LGBTQ week here. Amazing week of inclusion is scheduled for November 24th through December 1st of this year. So it's over Thanksgiving. Great way to spend your Thanksgiving if you are LGBT or Q or friendly to any of that. It's our deep soul mission here at Rythmia to cultivate a new type of spiritual tribe for the LGBTQ community. Considering our current political and social climate is of the utmost importance to foster community and to nurture a deep need for safety, refuge, and spiritual liberation, which, by the way, is what we're about here, whether you're part of LGBTQ or not. You can find safety, refuge, and spiritual liberation here. This awareness for synchronicity and serendipity, this powerful week will create the space in your awareness for synchronicity and serendipity to rush in. You will learn to craft a new dynamic story for your life and generate a profound new level of self-actualization. And as the conscious community, we get to experience the enrichment of building deep bonds with each other as we rise together. Great guest speakers, Ben Decker, Jennifer Sodini of Evolve and Ascend. Jennifer often shows up here. I didn't see if she's here yet, but if you are, hi, Jennifer. And Jordan River of Spirit Science, who's here this week as well, and under Spirit Science. So they each teach a unique workshop, 3 workshops that week. You usually only get 1, or at least 1 guest speaker. But this week, 3 in the LGBTQ week, November 24th through December 1st. There you go. There you have it. Thank you, Meg. And there for the announcements. So welcome, everybody. We are talking about loving the darkness today. This looking at the darker side of life, what it is, why it's important to be aware of, and how to love it in a way that's you can learn to live with it more happily and harmoniously. So why is this really important? There's an old school mentality to know your enemy. If you know your enemy, you know how to counter. And there's some value in that, but I think really from a more holistic perspective, life is a balance of dark and light. I love the yin yang symbol. In fact, you know what that looks like? I'll draw it for you. The whole yin yang, I think it comes from more of a Eastern philosophy, sort of Chinese Zen, but this thing right here, right? It shows that life's whole is a balance between light and dark. You can't have light without the dark. And what I really love are these little circles within the light and dark, always showing that even if you spend your time in light, there still is a little bit of darkness that is always present. In the same way, if you're enshrouded in darkness, there still is a little light, that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, to get you there. So we're really talking about wholeness, about really embracing all aspects of yourself to feel whole, because darkness is a part of you. It's part of that whole, and you will never be truly happy until you learn to love your whole self. If you deny that darkness, if you try to stuff it in the closet or whatever, there's part of you it's still going to eat at you. As this may apply, I often say in our breathwork class here, that Sigmund Freud, the great psychotherapist, said unexpressed emotions never die. And in this case, think about all your darker emotions that you've tried to stuff or put in the closet. These unexpressed emotions never die. They just reemerge in darker and uglier ways. So the bottom line is, if we don't do something about it, soon they still are going to catch up with you. So we really need, it's your obligation to your own happiness to look at those parts of you that you don't love, which gets into defining what, I was in Lynn saying, hi, Meg. Oh, you say, oh, you're already on there. So, I'm the last to know what's going on in the chat bar there. You just tell me if something I should address comes up. That's right. All right. So what is the darkness? And I'd say, simply put, your darkness is those parts of you that you don't love, and think about it. If you don't love it, it's, it's something that, like a thorn in your side. But the big realization here is that that's very relative. I've seen people who feel like, we were just talking about LGBTQ week, this week. In my own personal practice in life, I've dealt with people who feel like, they're enshrouded by this darkness. And then when I really start speaking with them and find out what it is, it's a self-judgment about how they are. And for instance, being gay these days is a lot more normalized than it was in the past. But if you still haven't, it's in your own consciousness, if you haven't resolved that within yourself, that that can be a darkness, a place of place that you don't love about yourself. And again, so a lot of my role in serving my clients in the past, and of course here at Rythmia too, is really to normalize our experiences and recognize that what we think is extreme darkness is actually oftentimes just a relative shade of gray, so to speak. So these parts of you don't love are basically often experiences from the past that have somehow made a mark on you. Trauma, repressions, suppressions, parts of you that you've stuffed away and you've tried to hide from dealing with. But if you're on this Facebook Live now, or you're contemplating coming to Rythmia, or you've been to Rythmia before, you know too much. It's like taking that red pill in the Matrix. You just can't replug back in, no matter what they promise you, right? You know too much. But that's really the good news, because the only direction of happiness is forward. So if you're not moving forward, you're not moving in the direction of your happiness. So your darkness is also on a habit side, your self-defeating habits, your self-deprecating habits. And this might be excessive eating, drinking, smoking. And I'm not saying that these things are, eating, drinking, smoking, all that is negative unto themselves. I mean, for somebody who knows how to moderately partake in anything, I feel like, there is no, in my mind anyway, no moralistic overlay to our freedom to experience life. But it's really when these things start to get in the way of how we choose to live our lives, or they become, the driving force in what we choose, then we need to look at this stuff. And so your darkness is also your attitudes, your moods, anger, depression, gossip, jealousy, all these things. And again, our emotions aren't necessarily bad either, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in more detail. It's not about any emotion being bad and trying to get rid of that emotion, but again, recognizing whether emotion is in control or whether we're just allowing the expression, the healthy of expression of emotion. And Belinda, hello, darkness keeps getting me into trouble. Can't wait to get there in October. Well, that's, you're already jumping ahead to my solution here, which is getting here as soon as you can. Riley, hey Riley, who was just here, facing the parts of me I don't love last week at Rythmia was so difficult. It got really dark at one point, and I wanted so badly for it to go away. It wasn't until beautiful Stacy came over to me and said, it doesn't have to go away. And Christian, you started singing Let It Be. Yeah, there we go. I'm the bard of inspiration, I guess. Well, that's what we'll call me this week. That's what I'll call me this week. Started singing Let It Be. Then I got it and started shifting into what would look like love and to love the dark part of me. My dark part of me was my inner coward, and also the part of me that believed was disgusting. Beautiful, Riley. Thanks for that report. And that's what happens here at Rythmia. Karen Perry, hi from Asheville, and Roseanne Jackson here in 2 weeks. Beautiful. And if anybody's coming in that's on here, make sure you introduce yourself to me when you arrive. I like to hear that people come here have actually participated in these Facebook Lives, and you know, it's fun to meet people I've conversed with a little bit over the chat bar. Bill said the same thing happened to me. It was the worst and most loved part of the experience. Isn't that right? That's really, you know, the worst because, again, that's how we framed it. Worst because we've been hiding from the shit all of our lives, and finally we bring it up, and now it's like, seems like our lives are shit. But you're doing the work. You're actually grappling with that stuff, and that becomes the best experience, because the only way out of your shit is through it, right? I've tried every other way, and I can, you know, at least for me, nothing else has worked.
Ditto.
Meg is agreeing with me on that as well. So, you know, to go through but to go through it doesn't mean to just blindly go through it too, and that's why, you know, we have a program like we do here at Rythmia, is to help intelligently go through it and give you, you know, minimum amount of pain and the maximum amount of benefit from that. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but I guarantee you, if you go about it other ways, it can be quite a bit more painful. Wow, a lot of people tend to become engored. Let It Be during ceremony was amazing for our group, and it was amazing for this last Wednesday's group too. I'll tell you that much. The music was on point. So.
How did miracles stay for the music?
I love having a studio audience here. It's we should make this more of a regular thing. All right. Let's sing Hold My Hand. Wow, that was a while back, but Marley had a great voice. Yes, Jamie, that was great. Jenny Greer joined, and Riley, you're going to absolutely fall in love with me. Yeah, replying to Maria. Beautiful. And welcome to Kim. Kim Remus, hey, welcome. Like when I see names that we've had here, and I really get, do you have a percentage of people who tune in who are from Rythmia, I mean, have been to Rythmia versus people who are new on here?
Pretty good, and it's regulars, like they come every week.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
We love the regular alumni out there.
Staying connected.
That's right. The connection part, this is really, you know, we'll teach you when you're here, as you're going back out, you need to stay connected, you need to stay rooted in a practice, and you need to, you know, keep the ball rolling in the positive habits that you either developed here or that you become aware of as you go through the program. And one of those ways is to keep tuning in to these things, to how, you know, to participate in the conversation, and to know once again that to find yourself in darkness at times, to bring us back to subject, is part of the process. And you know, it's a lot easier to get through that darkness when you know you have a support network, and that's part of what you really develop when you come here to Rythmia. You've got lifetime friends that you develop in all of the other participants that come here, and of course you've got a very caring, supportive staff where we're, you know, we are interested in you not only while you're here, but making sure that you're on track once you leave. So, Sveta, how are you? Good to see you on here too. Christian, loving your message, and Meg's giggles. Good. Tuning in from St. Petersburg, Russia. Yahoo! Missing the Rythmia family. So we are an international family. We had a couple Russians here last week too. I don't know if there are any Russians here this week, are there?
I don't think so.
But we have nothing against the Russians, brothers and sisters of a whole planet and world. That's right. Oh yeah, Gula. Gula is our resident Russian, basically. So we got one permanently on staff. So back to subject matter. So, you know, we're sort of defining what your darkness is, and the point I want to make here is, when experiencing darkness as it comes up, realize ultimately that it's a blessing, trying to get your attention to help integrate something that out of accord, in discord in your body, in your emotional field. And as that comes up, we have a phrase here that's very important, because a lot of stuff comes up, and we say that what's coming is going, right? What's coming is going, meaning what comes up during your process, or in this case, as darkness arises, it's arising to be looked at and to be released. It's rarely, unless you're in an experience that created the trauma or the thing in the first place. If you're actually interacting with somebody and having a dark experience, that's one thing. But when darkness continually re-emerges in your life, independent of like what's going on in your environment, then that's coming up not to to make your life living hell, but to it's wanting to be addressed. It's saying, hey, look at me, release me ultimately. And that's where we want to go to now, is how to best work with and love that darkness, as the topic of today's subject is all about. Stories about the stuff. All right, Meg's leaving, so I'm definitely going to feel a drop in enthusiastic energy as she goes. But she's doing the pregnant waltz, and that'll keep me sustained. See you, Meg. All right, thanks for joining. All right. All right. Back on track. Wasn't that fun, huh? How to best work with and love this darkness. So the first part I talked about a little bit is normalize, and I'll spend the whole next week's subject on this. Recognize the relative nature of your darkness. As I was, using the example of the LGBTQ week, a lot of being gay has been relatively normalized versus say 20 years ago, right? But you can still be in your head about it if, say, your family is very closed out, and it's hard for you to come out, in your more immediate environment, even though the world environment is much more normalized. So it's really recognizing that, what you perceive as this huge wall of darkness, maybe is less so than you realize, and so that's the first thing to consider. The second thing is, as you experience darkness, is to experience it, to actually not try to wrestle with it, fight it, try to stave it off, as the old adage goes. Fighting your darkness is like wrestling with a pig, right? All that's going to happen is you're going to get dirty, and the pig loves it. So get it? As you wrestle with your darkness, it brings darkness more into your focus. So the real idea is, as it comes up, to allow it, to experience it, to be kind of in the experience and an observer of the experience at the same time. Let yourself feel it. Use your breath to help you move through it. As I open this place, I'm a breathwork expert. All my credentials are, in breathwork and spiritual life. I didn't mention that I was a monk for 10 years prior to this. Many of you who've been to Rythmia know that, but everything I say is built upon these spiritual principles. And so working with your breathing, your breath helps move energy. Your breath is in essence the movement of energy. And when you've got stuck energy, you can actually use that breath to help, catalyze that other energy to start moving itself. And so if we're trying to move darkness out of us, one of the best ways is, one, to let it bubble up. So when you have a dark experience, not to just try to hide from it or stuff it down or numb yourself to it with some of these less than wholesome habits, but to allow it to be there and breathe into it, breathe through it, let it be there. What the presence process, a book that I highly recommend checking out, says is the felt perception. The essence of emotion is really just to allow it to have its space to express, and then it evaporates. It's like smoke from incense. It comes up, it gets smoky, but then it evaporates and it's gone. And then new. So, or I like to say, emotions are like weather patterns. Your darkness might be like rain coming in, and the rain comes and it starts raining. Might rain for 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 weeks. And but eventually the rain moves on and the sun comes out. Right? The rain will never last forever, not even in Seattle or Vancouver. It rains a lot, but it will always change, and you can guarantee you it will change. Might not change for many weeks, but no, the whole process is the whole process to emotion is letting them flow so that they finally do change, and you get into a new state of being. If you don't, you stop at midway, there's still unexpressed energy to that emotion that has to be expressed. Remember this, it has to be expressed, and that's why energy will come up later, and it will come up to say, hey, you haven't fully dealt with me yet. You haven't fully expressed this, so it's time to do so. Riley, let's see. My eyes aren't working as well today, so let's say, enjoying what you have to say. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you, Elliot. Appreciate that. Carrie, love you guys from Minnesota. Can't wait to come one day. And so you shall, Carrie. Hi. I'm going to try to pronounce your name, Agat or Agat. Where are you from? In with light, out with the dark. Yeah. And Jill Peters, LGBT, totally ostracized from family, even 30 years later. Sigh. Yeah, it's a lot to work on there, and that's as well what a program like Rythmia really has to offer, is a chance to take a deep dive into this. A lot of our, we're put in environments that tests our ability to rise above. And one of the great ways to work to see this is that God, the universe, whatever, never tests us more than we are capable of handling. And sometimes when it seems like we have stronger tests than others, it's because you are of that metal, meaning you have the power to overcome that kind of challenge, where somebody else might just be totally blown away by it. So, but Jill, if you can get here, if you haven't already, it will be a great thing. And you might consider the LGBTQ week. That's such a week of solidarity and a lot of healing, around the pain that's been caused about really trying to just express who you are, which isn't that what it comes down to for all of us, no matter what faith, what sexual preference, what nationality, what color. We're just trying to express who we authentically are and not get backlash from that, right? All right. Hi there. What would you say to those of us on the fence, not coming from fear of self-darkness, but more from the unknown of the physicality and what to expect, willing to fully surrender, just trying to paint a less amorphous picture? Perhaps a question for a call to Rythmia. Many blessings for the talk, programming, compassion, all. So Lulu, you kind of answer it yourself there a little bit. If you're willing to fully surrender, then jump in. If you're on the fence and you're willing to surrender, jump off the fence, right? And Rythmia is a great place. If you got stuff to work on, sometimes it takes commitment to coming to a place, commitment of time, a commitment of money, a commitment of energy that forces the issue. Like all the stuff we could do on our own, but how many of us do it on our own, right? And that's why we have the programs like we do, self-help programs all over the world. But Rythmia, I've been in this business, like I said, 12 years as a breath worker, 10 years as a monk, which is really all that's about personal development and self-growth. And I have seen no place that is as effective, I'd say, at getting right to your shit and getting that shit out as this place right here, Rythmia. So I'm honored to be a part of it as long as that lasts. And if you want some effective healing, this isn't the only place, but I would highly encourage you to look at this place as one of your options. So, I got from Norway. Should have known by that little O over the A. I used to live in Norway for 3 years of my life. Oslo. Where are you? Sarah, human past lives. What are we talking about here? Let's see. Roseanne Jacks. I will say to my darkness, I see you, I accept you. What do you want to say to me? I'm listening. Perfect, Roseanne. That's beautiful. And that's really, let me read a few comments here. But that gets into my, how to best work with it. You're right on track with all that. Living in an especially dark moment now, hoping to gain some insight from you. Great, Sarah. So let me know if anything I said resonates with you, and you can communicate with me after the fact too. And all of you can, if you friend me on Facebook, R Christian Minson, the letter R Christian Minson. And but always include a note that says, hey, I saw you on Facebook Live, I want to be your friend, or whatever, but if you don't include a note, it's very hard for me to go through everybody and friend you. Stephanie Ann, what's coming is going. Use this a lot while I was at Rythmia. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, great. And I had an amazing vacation. Thank you. Jill Peters, thanks. I got angelic healer because I was born in the dark. Home, survive because of light and love. Great. Yes, touche. Yeah. Thanks, Lou. Living in the darkest daily, try to face it. David, yeah, keep up the good work and see if anything I say here can help you. Lori, so enjoyed meeting me last week during the wonderful time at Rythmia. I signed up for additional information on breathwork. What are your recommendations for continuing this incredible healing practice post-Rythmia? Sorry to you and anybody that's waiting for any more information from me. I just backlogged with getting that out. But I would recommend that you definitely do the 100 breaths, the daily practice that we taught you in breathwork, and then search. You just breathwork your area. If you're in Tallahassee, Florida, breathwork Tallahassee, breathing, conscious breathing, transformational breath, rebirthing. Use some of these names and see if anything comes up. Even meditation, Tallahassee, and all that may lead you to some breathwork. Close to Bergen, huh? All right. I've been to Bergen before. Again, we're talking Norway. Stephanie Lou, if you hear the calling, go. Best thing I ever did for myself. Thanks, Stephanie, for giving the plug, and hopefully, Lulu, you'll get here. If you do get here, Lulu, definitely introduce yourself to me. Love the pig analogy, so good. Yeah, Bernie. Allison, I'm loving the continuing breathing technique you taught us and having lots of success. Beautiful, Allison. I love to hear that too. Dan joined. And beautiful. All right, so we're back on track with the message here, which is how to best work. We've talked about normalizing it, just putting it in perspective, realizing that what you think about your darkness is often more amplified than what it truly is. To experience it, to not just try to stuff it away, because it has to be dealt with at some time. So now we're learning how to deal with it productively, rather than continuing to stuff it away, to mask it, to numb ourselves out and stuff. To introspect about it as it comes up, and this gets I forget who just gave us their how they deal with it, but introspect about the nature of this darkness. Recognize that the darkness is usually old experiences that haven't been fully integrated, meaning you haven't dealt with these old experiences fully in the past. If it was trauma and you stuffed it down without fully bringing it to some kind of mental, emotional, and physical completion. Like there's energy on all these levels that needs to be dealt with when you're moving on with trauma or darkness in your life. So recognize then that the old experiences of your life that haven't been dealt with continue to influence how your life is going, right? This is a huge thing, a huge motivator, let's say, for dealing with it. Because as long as you're not dealing with it, it's not like it's off the table. It means it's like under the table, festering and growing, and that's even worse. It's like having a disease that you pretend isn't there, right? And you can pretend all you want, but the disease continues to grow until finally it overtakes your whole body. Whereas if you just faced it and dealt with it in that moment, you could do things that could help eradicate that disease. Then recognize that these feelings that are coming up now are actually messengers to help you to evolve into a better, smarter, happier, more in tune person. So as this energy arises, instead of standardly stuffing it back down, you allow it to be there, but you allow it to be there with a new listening. You're listening to that energy. You're observing it, and you're seeking the message that it's really telling you. Usually it's telling you that something is out of balance in your life, and when you recognize that, it gives you a new opportunity to do something about it, to bring your life back into balance. When you know what's out of balance, you know more adequately how to bring it back into balance. And if you're still confused on how to bring it back into balance, come to Rythmia or do breath work. This is why I watch you and JJ every week. David, thanks, David. We appreciate that. And very encouraging sharing. Amy is telling me, thanks, Amy. And AGOT, clearing attachments, cutting cords. Yeah, all this stuff is, is deeper level ways of working on stuff. So, the bottom line again, understand that this energy is coming. What's coming is going, right? It's coming up to be dealt with, to bring you a message on how to evolve your life, how to take your life to the next level. It's not coming up to show you how miserable your life is and to, remind you that you're never going to get anywhere or that you're useless or valueless or whatever. No, it's coming up to take you to the next level. And this is really the crux of it. This is where you start to use the tools that you learn here at Rythmia, the tools that I teach, especially the tools of breath work that can help process mega amounts of this energy without, with relatively little pain. So, once you've sort of recognized, another thing you can do to help address the darkness is study, to get into researching ways of behaving differently. Now that you've understood the message, you can start to actually, besides just your own intuitive insight on how to deal with things, start to look at how other people have dealt with it. Find information. I always look to those who I want to emulate, people with saintly status, people who are living life on point, and how are they dealing with things like this? And that can give you then encouragement on how to move forward. Another point, how to deal with this darkness might seem a little out left field, but exercise. Physical exercise does a number of things. One, it will, temporarily distract your mind so you're not like spinning out in this darkness. But two, we are energetic beings. We are essentially energy condensed in physical form. Our emotions are just another form of energy. Our thoughts are another form of energy. So when we're dealing with energy, and the darkness is just ultimately energy that we've labeled as dark, otherwise it's just neutral, but we can burn off some of the intensity of the energy by working out physically, by channeling that energy into physical movement, physical activity. So whether it's getting some good cardio with running or basketball or soccer or something like that, or working out hard in the gym, burn off some of that energy. And extra bonus is that you're doing something good for yourself, so you're reinforcing healthy habits, which is really what we're striving to do, is replace our habits that aren't bringing us happiness, i.e. often our darkness, and bring them into more light habits. Let's see. Can I teach myself breath work and do it at home alone? Carrie, I would suggest that before that you can do it at home alone, but you should contact a professional first. If you want, Facebook message me, R. Christian Minson, afterwards, and we can carry on that conversation about what's best for you. Allison, I've done other techniques, and yours has been the best for me so far. Thanks, and I believe in it, because not only is this breath work very emotionally cathartic, it's spiritually connective, and it's teaching you a way to model your everyday breathing so that you ultimately breathe better, that you learn to breathe better with every breath you take, that you actually have a habit of better breathing. And when I don't exercise regularly, I tend to get agitated more easily. I need to do breath work more often. Diana, that's great, and that's it. Our bodies are meant to move, and again, this energy, if it's not dealt with, energy is energy. It's like continuing to pump energy into a light bulb or something. It can only hold so much energy. If you keep pumping more and more, eventually pop, it can't handle it, and it's going to break. Same way ultimately with our body. If we keep building this pressure of energy within us and we don't give it outlets, eventually something's going to pop. We come down with a physical disease. We have a nervous breakdown. We start to have mental tweaks in our being. So all this stuff is really rooted in not leading a balanced life to begin with, and this is really what we're ultimately talking about. Life is like a heartbeat. It goes up and down, and that is. It's just, it's again the yin-yang symbol. The darkness and the light are part of the same equation. It's all part of the whole of who you are, and to deny any part of you is really to deny you. And as long as you're in denial of you, you're agitated. You're out of sorts with yourself. You come in a harmonious balance only when you accept the totality of you. Recognize that darkness is there. This is a good place to interject too, that you'll find darkness in every organization as well. And as much as an organization brings light, like Rythmia, there's still darkness there. Again, life is like this. It's, whether we're talking about business, whether we're talking about a spiritual organization, the Catholic Church, what have you. As much light as an organization can give, there's still darkness going on. And if we ignore that, that's, once again, not really intelligently taking in the whole picture. Now, do we have to let it affect us? This is, I was a monk for 10 years, and one of the senior brothers was asked, how did you make it? How did you make it all these years? A lot of people left, including myself, and fortunately I left on positive terms. A lot of people really left disgruntled. They get wrapped up in the internal politics and different things that are wrong with the place. And it's like, they asked him, how did you survive all these years? You know what he said? He said, I minded my own business, which means he was clear on what he was there for. He was there for his own self-realization. He was there to devote his life to God and to serve others. And that's what he focused on day in and day out. That was the light equation of that organization, meaning he didn't spend undue time dwelling in the darkness. Now, if his duties were to revamp, the internal administration, for instance, of course, then he's going to look at the darkness, because that's part of what his his task at hand. But in his own personal life, it was like, that stuff is like a soap opera. You can get sucked in, and then you ride the waves of the ups and downs. And usually that soap opera is your life. And it's not so fun when that's your life versus watching it on the screen. Sarah, how do you shield yourself from other people's energy so you don't absorb their negativity? And that's that's really the trick of life too, isn't it? Recognize that you have a choice, first of all. If you're absorbing somebody's negativity, it's because there's something in you that's attracting that negativity. It's probably a similar resonant frequency of the negativity that you still have in you. This is a great, again, this doesn't have to be bad. This is a great learning experience. You're saying that, oh, if I'm absorbing this negativity from somebody else, it's actually a reflection that this negativity is in me. Now I have the awareness to do something about it. The other thing is, we are all just energy sponges. I mean, energy is coming in and out of us all the time. We talk about cell tower waves and stuff. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Cosmic energy, psychic energy, all emotional energy, and some of it comes in, it sticks, and the more it sticks, once again, is usually because there's a resonant frequency with us. We can learn to relax into it, let it start moving through us. There's also ways to clear. You can explore different ways to clear energy, but again, one of the best, in my opinion, is breath work. Breath work is the way to get your life force energy moving in a way that sort of cleanses all. It's like having a wheel. Wheel starts moving, and I did this the other day because I was mountain biking and it just rained the night before. So all this mud was caked on the wheels, right? And it causes you to go slower. The slower you go, the more the mud stays caked on. But I started going downhill a little bit. The wheel starts going faster. The mud starts flying off, right? So the more we're in motion, the more we can bring this life force energy into motion. We start to fling off the effects of that energy that we've accumulated from others and there. And again, too, we'll often, through that breathwork process, through really activating our own life force energy, we start to develop deeper insights and awarenesses on what direction to take. We usually have more enthusiasm to take those directions. So hopefully that helps you, Sarah. Let me know if it does. We learn to forgive ourselves in the light. So true, beautiful. Help ourselves love ourselves, and then we can help others, and also can be energy wants to help come to light. All right, good comments there I got. And I mentioned exercise study, and all these things, all the things that I'm mentioning actually are derivations of one of the talks I give, and probably the foundational principle of everything that I talk about, which I think I labeled this Facebook Live, the 5 habits of highly spiritual people, so you can you can look those up. And but basically, to introspect, to study, to exercise, these are parts of those habits. These are the kind of things that we did day in and day out in the spiritual life that I lived in the monastic order, because these are the things that bring you into alignment with your true self, which means to accept your darkness, to work out the residual darkness, and to live in a happier harmony. All right. Good stuff. Never expected this level. It's my first time here. I love everything you're saying. It's right on time. There were 3 steps to get here. Very nice. Namaste. Beautiful, Judy. Thank you for that feedback. And you coming to Rythmia anytime soon? So there's a couple more points, and let me just bring it. One of the biggest ways to deal with this, deal with your darkness and to actually love it, is forgiveness. Really working on forgiveness. And forgiveness, think Yogananda, my spiritual teacher, said, you know, if it weren't for forgiveness built in the human species, we would have annihilated each other years ago, millennia ago. I'm paraphrasing what he said in a much more eloquent way, but you know, it's attributed to our ability to forgive that we still exist as a species on this planet. And you know, when you think about forgiveness, we're often thinking about forgiving others, but who is forgiveness really for? And most of you who've been to Rythmia recognize, will understand the answer to that. Forgiveness is really ultimately for yourself. Forgiveness allows you to finally just let go. Until you forgive, think about it. You're actually holding on and identifying with the energy that you can't forgive, which means that you're keeping it circulating in your field. You're keeping this energy that you don't like circulating because you're holding on to it. Right? Do you get that? As long as you're not forgiving, you actually are keeping a tight grip on not releasing this negative energy. When you forgive, again, you feel like in essence it's for the other person. You know, I can forgive you for the heinous things you did to me. I can forgive you for whatever. But what you're actually doing is letting go, allowing the energy to finally leave you. And thereby you can get back on track with being much more happy and healthy. Jill says, excellent teaching, helped me a lot today. Thank you. Beautiful. And I got thanks for the lovely energy and so pure information. Yeah, I hope you come here. I'd like to talk Norway with you. So forgiveness and breath work, once again, is one of the most powerful ways to bring about forgiveness. This Rythmia program here too is, you know, a lot of people recognize, they come here and they actually forgive people they never thought were forgivable, you know, because once again, you ultimately recognize the value to yourself. You call it selfishness. My spiritual teacher called it spiritual selfishness, when you do something that's right, even if you're doing it for your own personal reasons, but you know, right meaning in harmony with the relative flow of the universe. And then the last point I have to say, you know, in dealing with darkness is service. And this is one of the 5 habits of highly spiritual people. This is what I dedicated my life to as a monk, which is to serve others. Serving others gets you outside of yourself, even if just temporarily. It allows you space. You know, a lot of times we can just get wrapped up in our own bubble, and life is all happening all right here, but for all intents and purposes, it's just happening right here. And if we can serve others, we take ourselves out of that, and we simply focus on others. What usually happens is we start to see our relative place in humanity and our value too, helping somebody else. You know, once again, even if you're in the dark part of the equation, serving all of a sudden gives you a little taste of the light, which then says, hey, maybe I could dwell more in light with the occasional taste of darkness. So serving other people, like getting outside yourself, taking your own needs and cares and concerns and all that, setting it aside temporarily so that you can participate in the grander scheme of life. You have microphone issues? Oh, so can you hear me? All right, just here, I'm going to just pull the microphone out. Hopefully you can hear me. I'll just say it because pretty much at the end, I just want to reflect, what if you looked at your darkness differently after listening to this today? You didn't run from your darkness, but you actually allowed it to be present. You stayed with it. You breathed into it. You learned from it. You got the message it was giving, and you started to act on that information. Just think how much more balanced your life would be, how much less fear and anxiety and stress about, you know, when darkness starts to arise, and how much more strength and understanding and knowledge you have that you can navigate even choppy waters in life, and just ultimately how much happier you could be, because, as we said, you can only love yourself. I mean, you can only be happy when you love your whole self. Your whole self includes the light and it includes the darkness. So you don't love the darkness, there's no possible way to ultimately love yourself. So with that, rubbing your shirt. Okay, I got that. Thanks, Kevin. But now that shouldn't be an issue because I just unplugged the microphone. Sarah, that's better. Yeah. So, and that's everyday learning from that darkness, and that's great. If you do that, you've really turned your enemy into a friend. So with that, if there's any other questions, I'm really coming upon the end of my time, where I'm R. Christian Minson here, the breathwork director at Rythmia. So I conduct the breath ceremonies, equally as powerful as the plant medicine ceremonies we offer here. So don't underestimate the power of your breath. I'm here to encourage you to dive deep. That's what my life is all about. And if you want the insider secret, that's what every life is about. Your own evolution, your own self-development, self-realization. And if you don't actually come to terms with that, then it's usually just a struggle. So let's see, everything from my time, miss everything from my time at Rythmia, Allison, and get back here, Allison. I miss you. Kevin, thanks. Christian, thank you for joining. If you want to continue the conversation, friend me on Facebook, R. Christian Minson, the letter R. Christian Minson. Always include a note, though, a message that says, I saw you on Facebook Live, I was at Rythmia before. It really helps. Sveta, thank you. And Allison, breathwork there was amazing. And did you know you're a top fan, Allison? I don't know how they must be a top fan of Rythmia. Probably meaning you communicate a lot. So we love top fans. And Linda says, thank you, much love. I hope you come back here soon there, Linda, too. Maria Palomino, hey, were you on all this time? I may have missed you in the beginning there, but when did you say you're coming back? Looking forward to having you here again. So all of you out there, if you've been here before, keep fighting the good fight, shine your light, and spread the good word. Live, mastery of the experiences that you had here. Continue to put into daily action in just even little ways what you learned and what you grew from here at Rythmia. Those of you who haven't been, get yourself here. It will be the hardest work you ever will be thankful that you did, because you're truly facing yourself. You're facing that darkness that you've probably been keeping in the closet all this time, and you know it's time to get rid of it. So with that, hey, Jill Peters is a top fan too. Top fans to you. And Maria, great. Glad that you could be on this whole time. I miss you. So thank you all. We will see you next week on Rythmia Live. R. Christian Minson signing off. Namaste.